Thanks for sitting down with me today, Chris, to talk about Avani and Green by Nature's partnership. Great to be here.
Great to be here as well. Thank you.
So Avani and Green by Nature, the catalyst for our partnership was that Green by Nature has a B Corp certification, and part of that certification is, of course, a lot of manual data collection and putting a report together as part of that. Tell me a little bit more about why Green by Nature pursued B Corp in the first place.
So Green by Nature is one of the largest landscape maintenance businesses in Australia and New Zealand. So we work with all kinds of green spaces, from local council parks to elite sports turf to education facilities and campuses. And so naturally we're really working with the environment every day, and that's what everyone is passionate about is the environment, and that's why we have an ESG strategy. So we want to do this the best possible way. We want to invest in practices that are not cutting corners, and we're doing this effectively, and we want to invest in software and platforms that help us get to this goal.
So with B Corp, achieving that, how does that actually help with what you're able to present to your customers and what your customers are actually looking for when they first come to you?
I think B Corp gives a differentiator in the sense that we're showing how strong our commitments are in this space with that certification. So B Corp essentially validates our the commitments that we have to our clients. You know, it's not just a piece of paper. We don't just have a strategy that we're not really looking at. We're really actioning these items, and it's a tough certification. So we're really we're making sure that we're doing it properly. But it's really validating that we're serious about this stuff. And a lot of clients are really interested in the environmental impact element, which B Corp encompasses already. And then I guess there's the additional stakeholder groups that we're positively impacting as well. So that's additional validation for a client, I think. It also means for them, they know that we've got the ability to help provide sort of community and environmental data reporting for them, because we're tracking that as best as we can, and as best as sort of B Corp requires us to do as well. So for them, they know that we've got data to sort of back up what we're saying.
Okay. And how does that certification that you have help your customers' goals?
So I think it's the stronger elements is in the environmental space. So if our clients are looking to track Scope 3 emissions, then we're able to help show our own Scope 1 and 2 emissions, and it's keeping us accountable to make sure that we're continuing to monitor that data. There's particular clients have specific community targets as well, particularly in volunteer hours, and making sure that we're trying to embed ourselves into their communities as best as possible. So I think that's a different element as well, knowing that we're able to sort of validate the volunteer work and the community engagement work that we're doing as well.
So zooming into the environmental data, you make the point of they have their own Scope 3 goals, or potentially they just need to report it because they've got the compliance obligations. I think a lot of your larger clients now in 2026 need to begin actually tracking their Scope 3 in a way that's auditable. And a key part of that is having key suppliers that can actually provide that data. So what that essentially means is that you also need to make sure that what you're doing is rigorous and auditable and defensible. So when you first started looking at that B Corp certification, could you tell me a little bit more about which data challenges did you end up facing as you began to collect the information needed to report your Scope 1 and 2?
So the challenges that we had were definitely just sheer volume. So we have over 20 depots across Australia and New Zealand. The amount of utility invoices that we have for each financial year is a lot of work. So we're really looking to streamline that and modernize our approach to doing that rather than manually doing it. Which is how we were doing it initially. So there was a lot of manual labor to find individual invoices and extract that data and then sort of upload that. So, yeah.
So diving into a little more detail, like when you were first initially doing that before you took an automated approach, what did that actually look like in like step by step?
We had individual team members taking the invoices that we have and uploading into a spreadsheet. So we had sort of a master spreadsheet that our external agency helped us design to make sure we were doing it in the best possible way. And then we were extracting data from invoices, and we sort of had them split across. I think it was sort of state-based that we were initially doing it, and just sort of taking data and directly putting it into the spreadsheet. We did have Toitū certification in New Zealand, which is another environmental certification. Part of their requirements are that we're tracking our data, our scope 1 and 2 data as well. So New Zealand was a little easier because we already had a tool to do that, but it still comes down to the number of invoices and manually uploading that data.
So with those problems in mind, you obviously went out to market to look for a way to automate that data collection. What were the top specific problems that you were looking to solve when you first went out?
So really, we were just trying to find a way to fix this manual labor issue that we had with the sheer number of invoices, I think there are over 1,000 or so invoices. So we were really just trying to find a way to automate that system, but we didn't think that was possible. So we had two issues. We wanted to modernize our system in the sense of replacing the spreadsheet and going to an online cloud-based software so that data is protected. And then we also wanted to work out how we can reduce that manual labor load, which initially we didn't assume was possible. There were definitely options in that sort of that cloud-based platform. And then, we just happened to come across the idea that we can start to reduce that manual labor load using AI.
So, of course, after you completed that search, you would have looked at a few different options, and Avani and Green by Nature ended up partnering. So what led you to that decision to partner with Avani versus other options that you looked at?
Avani offered an ability to reduce this manual labor data extraction element that we hadn't really seen before. So along with the AI component was a huge one because that was, if that worked, we would be saving a lot of time and a lot of hours. Avani was very forthcoming with the amount of support that they were willing to provide, which was fantastic. And your interface, like the program itself, looked easy to use, looked clean, looked sharp. So the last two options were brilliant, but the ability to automate our invoices through our own ERP system was by far the biggest selling point for us.
And how's it been so far? So through that experience, we've been working together now for a number of months. How has that implementation gone, and what are you hoping to achieve with us over the next year?
Yep. We managed to we worked with Avani to upload all of our FY25 environmental data for Scope 1 and 2 emissions, which was a huge feat in itself. I think we did it in about 6 weeks to 2 months, which is amazing considering how many invoices there were, and that was over the December period as well. So we're really, really happy with the fact that we managed to get that done and the support that Avani provided us to train your program to read individual invoices that we have, which we've got a massive range of suppliers. So we weren't sure if a lot of the invoices were going to work. So it was fantastic that it did, and we're really, really happy that we managed to achieve that goal that we set to try to achieve that in 2 or so months. And Avani was brilliant at sort of keeping us on track and checking in as well to make sure that we were pushing things along on our end as well.
Awesome. That's great to hear. And it sounds like what we were able to achieve was that B Corp certification, or that B Corp deadline that we were aiming for. And of course, for Green by Nature, B Corp is only one, it's the most urgent need that needs to be solved, but it's only one part of what you'll actually need this environmental data for in the long run, it sounds like. So how is automating this process now setting you up for success with other potential frameworks or reporting needs that you're going to need in the future?
As a B Corp, as a certified B Corporation, we obviously need to record our emissions data year on year. So the partnering with Avani meant we could do that easier instead of doing that with our own spreadsheet system. So yes, we needed to action that as soon as we could for the previous financial year to catch us up to speed again. And then moving forward, so we're really excited to start to integrate Avani with our ERP to hopefully entirely automate the system with the invoices kind of going straight through and kind of just formulating there, which is the perfect option if we can kind of have that happening and we're sort of monitoring and doing we're spending our time doing the quality assurance checks rather than doing the manual upload. So that's sort of the next phase of the project. And then really this is all to help prepare us as well for the mandatory reporting coming up in Australia. And essentially just we want to be the best at this. We really want to show that we're doing this properly, and we're not trying to cut corners. We really want to be best in class at tracking our emissions and using a best in class tool that can help us get there.
Awesome. And one thing that we were talking about earlier was that perhaps you expect that your customers are going to be asking for this information more often. How do you expect that need to evolve over the next couple of years?
I think our clients, definitely there's going to be a growing need for our clients to see and report on our emissions factors when we're doing work on their sites. So there's definitely, that's coming in the future for sure. Like we definitely know that clients are going to want to see the emissions so they can start to report on their own scope 3. So the idea of being able to have sort of individual portfolios, I guess, for our clients, and we can show them, this is the work that we do for you, and this is where the emissions are going. This is sort of like the water usage and the waste, and have a snapshot, and almost it's almost like a client platform within Avani. If we can use that and show them, this data really quickly and easily, that's a huge up for our clients, I think. We work with a number of local councils, and we know that they're particularly interested in being able to report on their Scope 3 emissions. And part of that, obviously, as a supplier to these councils, they like to see where the emissions are and I guess what water and waste use we have, to be able to track that further.
One of the things that we often see is environmental reporting forces you to look at your data in a way in which you haven't before. So something that's a little... Because think about it, you wouldn't have necessarily ever done this exercise of taking all the data out and seeing how much waste are we using, how much water are we using. It allows you to have a bit more of a holistic view of those metrics across a lot of different depots. Do you expect, and appreciating that this might not be like where you're focused in the business, but do you expect that in the future that will actually allow you to have an extra way to view Green by Nature's operations across the business and across different depots, and potentially find ways to run the business more efficiently, like actually find where it might be running inefficiently, like you might be getting overcharged for a waste provider in one place versus another. Like, have you thought about that lens?
There's only been a couple of years worth of data for looking at all of our depots as a whole business and the emissions metrics for each of them, which is really interesting because we, for the first time using Avani, we can, in a more sophisticated tool, we can really compare and sort of track the different metrics against each other. So I definitely think there's going to be scope for being able to continuously improve at a depot level, which we probably hadn't had the ability to really like search and get into that granular detail with before, especially if we know that one depot has a really high electricity bill for whatever reason. We can look at solar and things like that. It's pretty cool to be able to see this at a depot level, and that is also a B Corp requirement to report at a depot level as well. So the more granular that we're getting, the better, I think.